This is the Night Wolf howling at you, and today we're going to take a look at the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe Beastman Savage Henchman figure for the cartoon collection of Masters of the Universe. This is, of course, based on the designs from the Filmation cartoon from back in the 80s. He does not look happy to be in that box. On the back, we once again see the As Seen on TV bit at the top where it says it's from the episode The Dragon Invasion. It includes a mini comic book. Once more, it just says it's modernizing and celebrating the original 80s Masters of the Universe animated series, when really it should say something a little bit better, like perhaps Beastman uses the hover ray to steal the dragon's eggs for Skeletor's evil purposes. You know. We also get the cross cell on the back, which shows He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe, Beastman, Savage Henchman, duh, we just talked about that, Man-at-Arms, heroic master of weapons, and Skeletor, the evil lord of destruction, who we already have. So let's go ahead and cut the sucker open. Man, I never quite get that clean cut, do I? With this, we have another comic. It looks like it is a new comic. We have the nice little bit that shows us all the removable parts. And we have Beastman himself. He really does look unhappy, doesn't he? This does, in fact, look like it's a different comic than what we've had so far. Teela had her own comic, Skeletor had his own comic, and now Beastman has his own comic. I wonder if we'll get lucky enough and have everybody will have their own comic in this line instead of, sharing them like they did previously with the waves. Especially since the waves in this set are so screwed up anyway. So the mini comic is called The Mask of the Magi, starring Beastman and He-Man apparently. Here we show Skeletor having sent a Beastman on a quest to find something. And, well, some random lightning hits his Roton, blowing it up, and he falls into a cave. Hours, maybe days. Pretty sure he'd probably be dead if he was laying unconscious for a few days. And pops up one of the masks of power. And in all truth, when I saw this part, I was like, did they just swap out Beastman for Skeletor in a story they did previously? But it appears that maybe this is actually going along with the alternate mask of power, and so the villain Magnus possesses Beastman, and he decides that they will bring an army together in order to take over. And so we see a war begin between the undead armies that Beastman has control of against the avian people led by Stratos, as He-Man comes charging in on our Wind Raider to help out. And thus, during the battle, Beastman's apparently using the gravity device to do something. Looks like he's shooting lasers, which makes no sense. But then again, it is based on Filmation, so occasional things that didn't make sense did happen. And the sorceress pops up here to appraise her that He-Man needs the Sword of the Ancients in order to defeat the Mask of Power. So I am wondering if this is supposed to take place after the Skeletor one, maybe? I hope all the comics actually do go together in some way, shape, or form. But luckily enough, He-Man buried the blade long ago where they stand. What a coincidence. And thus he calls the sort of ancients up to him, and Beastman slash Magus tries to grab the blade with his gravity ray, but it doesn't work, and He-Man takes the sword from him, and the sword combines together with a sword of power, and He-Man is able to destroy the mask, and Beastman is returned to his true self, and he runs off like a coward to get away. And yet, apparently he's running off in the Rotown that was destroyed by the lightning blast. Continuity problems. And, Stratos and He-Man have their nice little heart-to-heart. And this last panel kind of makes me wish they'd gone ahead and done one of those, one more page where they do the whole PSA moment. In today's story, you saw how Beastman found a power that he did not know how to control, and he was taken over by it. You should always be careful when you're giving power, because great power comes with great responsibility. I know, I had to throw that in. And then, of course, on the back, we get the same cross cell that we had on the back of the package, showing a He-Man, Beastman, Man-at-Arms, and Skeletor. Dun dun dun. Now, for the time you've all been waiting for, the unloading of Beastman. So really quickly, let's go over the articulation. Ironically, with Beastman, he probably should be in more of the pose that the original He-Man figures come in, where he's kind of squatting down because he kind of walked with that bold-legged, hunched form. So, first off, let's take a good look at his head sculpt, which the paint apps on this look really nice. I think they did a good job on that. He's very pretty. Said before, he looks like he is angry, however, and that makes sense because he's Beastman and works for Skeletor, and Skeletor is a pain in the ass. He's also using the same buck that Skeletor used. And he's got the little bracers here. This is a built-on thing. And we'll turn his armbands over so they're on his side like they're supposed to be. Articulation-wise, his head is still on that ball joint. You can spin it around. The cowling on his equipment is loose enough, or should be say pliable enough that you can still get the head around without too much of a hindrance. You can look up and down, although I guess that was just the opposite. Turn left, turn right. The arm articulation, we've got the up and down hinge. We can spin it around. Thankfully, the articulation is not particularly hindered by anything, although, as you may note, if we start down here and we just spin it around, his arm does end up pushing outwards by the time you're done. Don't know if that's supposed to be a key feature of this, but it is something that happens. On the elbow, we've got the less than 90-degree bend, like so. And of course, the swivel, so you can spin that around as well. On the waist, we get a nice 360. On the legs, we can kick up yay far, which isn't very far at all. Back yay far, which isn't very far at all again. We can kick out pretty far. Now when it, but yeah, it seems like the new diaper is kind of hindering with the actual momentum of the movement. We also have on the bottom the knees, where we can close them like that. And actually, that's a pretty nice, nice way that it kind of combines together there. But yeah, it's about 90 degrees. We can spin it at the knee also. And to go along with that, we do have the traditional boot cut, which we can spin all around. We have a hinge at the foot, and along with the hinge is a peg that allows it to also spin around like so. Beastman's diaper does have the blue and the gold paint. The gold is painted over the blue. His harness here on the back does have the more traditional kind of catch here, which is surprising because I was honestly expecting it to be a solid piece like his wristbands are, or his bicep bands are. I'm not a big fan though of how hollow this is. I know again that that actually is what allows it to move out of the way when he's moving his head around, but it just doesn't look very good to me that way. He does come apart like our traditional MOTU figures, although those are pretty strong. Harness is easy enough to slip off, and we can see he's using the same buck as the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe Cartoon Collection figures, which means they will be semi-compatible with the rest of the Origins figures. I think the color looks good, and I really do appreciate that he's got just the regular hands on both of them and not like goofy clawed hand. Although to get that back on, we're probably going to be better off taking the head off. But see, they could have actually just done it like this. They didn't need to have the strap like this. They could have done it as a solid piece like they've done on previous figures. So I'm not sure why they made that decision. Because I also think if it was just a solid piece, it would have been cheaper to produce. With him, of course, comes the... Honestly, this kind of looks like it should be the control panel of a ship and not a ray of some sort. But this is supposed to be the hover ray or the graviton ray. And it does fit surprisingly well in his hands. So you too can make like his whip float up. This is one of those ones where it's a tough decision on how you want to display these guys. Like the new accessories, I think, are definitely a big plus for display purposes. So this might be a good way to display him. But he does also come with his traditional whip, and it does look like it is just a repaint of the one from the Origins collection. Speaking of which, for comparison-wise, we do have our Origins Beastman. And right off the bat, you can see a lot of changes. And even with the stand underneath this Origins Beastman, the Cartoon Collection one looks like he's taller. And yeah, just to confirm, it is in fact the same whip, just in a different color. Beastman here could actually hold this on one side, but not the other. Okay, maybe he can't even hold it on one side. Yeah, that looks kind of dumb, doesn't it? The head sculpts are obviously different. The coloring is obviously different. All around, like, nothing matches up at all. On our traditional Beastman, we do have the little, like, claw design on the hand there. That's missing. As Beastman here just uses standard He-Man hands. And of course, whereupon our previous Beastman has furry lower legs and furry forearms. No additional fur is on him, and he is wearing boots. And the boots themselves have more detail than his feet do. His presumably bare feet in the original toy. Even the diaper is a different color, but in this case, I like the new color better. You can kind of see though where the little logo here in the middle of his chest, or I guess the amulet in the middle of his harness, is based on this one, but very plain and very loose. Our traditional Beastman has the double horns, or thorns, whatever you want to put it, teeth, pokery parts on his arm, whereupon we just have the single one like in the Filmation cartoon. Right now, looking at these, I would love to see this head redone in this coloring so it can go on this head, because I definitely prefer the Cartoon Collection head sculpt to the traditional Masters of the Universe head sculpt. I think it looks much nicer. Although it is kind of a shame that they did not put hair detailing here on the sides and on his little mohawk. I think that is a miss. Even if it technically he doesn't have that on his head in the cartoon, I still think that little bit of extra sculpting would have been a bonus. Parts wise, like I said, we should be able to do some swapping. But like with the Skeletors, I think it's not going to be quite that easy, because these parts on our Beastman are probably going to be a little bit thicker again. No, the head swapped fine. So you can kind of use some of the Origins Beastman parts with the Cartoon Collection parts, but not vice versa, and they are loose. So you're probably just better off using the normal way. I was surprised that the head fit as well as it did. The ball joints must be about the same size. Can't forget this is Beastman. Oh. Oh, Skeletor. Oh, crud. I know there are people complaining about the Cartoon Collection when we still haven't finished getting the original figures out there, but it kind of looks like the Cartoon Collection is what's going to be available in retail, whereupon, just based on the Rock-On and Snout Spout coming out, that those may be the way that the rest of the Origins figures, and maybe even and maybe the Masterverse figures, are going to go from now on. Which I really hope we do see them in retail more, because it is nice, but I think there were too many screw ups early on in both of those lines, because let's be honest, a lot of people weren't that impressed with the Revelations cartoon, and a number of the Revelations only characters who didn't look like their predecessors in any way, shape, or form weren't particularly popular and weren't picked up. So, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Uh, Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, Let me know what you think of the Cartoon Collection Beastman. Are you collecting the series yourself? And if not, what made you decide not to get them? And I will say this again, I do like the fact that they're using new sculpts for this stuff and not just repainting the other ones. I think it looks really nice. So anyway, peace and love.